Welcome to today's battle report. Today's battle is going to be a Roman siege set during the Roman-Jewish War. We have Roman troops attacking a generic fortress in Judea. So I'll go to the Roman forces first. We have Romans in this watchtower here, siege tower, ready to attack. Got some Scorpios on the roof. Roman troops ready to try and bash down the gate with a nice battering ram. Roman artillery in the centre, so we can fire more or less all around, with bowmen in the centre as well. And on this side we have already made a breach in the walls, and that's where these guys are going to assault. They're supported by 2 onychas and a heavy trebuchet, which is just there. So now over to the Jewish side of the battlefield. On the Jewish side of the battlefield, the army is split into 2 separate sections. Both have roughly equal amounts of troops. That's the main gatehouse, which is currently being held by auxiliary troops, and it has some artillery on the roof. The auxiliary troops appear to be defending the rear of the gate, with some zealots backing them up. And the civilians are all hiding inside there. Jewish troops on the wall are all zealots. Also an onycha that I've just noticed. I haven't noticed that before. And over in the breach, this is the hole that's already been made in the wall. The Jewish troops are quite heavily defending this area with their best overall troop unit, which is that one there, which is Seige. I'm not sure how good Seige will do in a stand-up fight. They tend to be better at charging enemy rather than defending, but we'll find out today. And that's the Jewish forces, so we will now take the first turn and see how it plays. General Vespasian over here completely banjaxed his order dice, and he has completely failed to make any actual assault on the fort. So the Jews under Josephus have decided to sally forward and attack him. The Sicarii, who I mentioned earlier, aren't particularly good in combat. Aren't particularly good at attacking. No, attacking? What was it? Defending, that's it. They're not good at standing still. They didn't stand still, they actually attacked. So they've hit the Romans, done a bit of damage, not too much. The Romans are holding them at the moment. Over here, however, the Zealots have come forward and pushed back some of the auxiliary infantry. So, not going too well for the Romans at this end of the board. But it's all still to play for there, because there's no one actually dead, so, well, no unit's dead. Maybe the odd Roman's been trampled to death, and the odd Jew might have an arrow in his eye. But other than that, yeah. Pretty even Stevens as the first round goes. Now we have the auxiliary troops, the guys in stolen Roman armour from the last game, currently standing in the breach, just to make sure no Romans get through. That's if the Romans even get close. Interesting way of fighting a siege. We will see what happens next. That's the end of the first round. The Romans have moved up just here. They've just about reached the gate and are about to start knocking on the door. The Romans in the siege tower have been pelting away at the troops on the wall, but they haven't done too much damage. Jewish troops still on the other side waiting for battle. Now there's the interesting part. Over here, the Jewish forces have made a sally out of the fort to attack the Romans. And the Romans are about to continue their assault. As you can see, the Zealots are on their way back into the fort, all disordered and upset. They're not very happy. The Sicarii are still on the table, but they're almost about to break. All they need is another hit and they've pretty much had it, especially considering what's firing at them. The trebuchet got to fire and did practically no damage whatsoever, so that was a waste of time building that one. Overall, the end of this turn is a Roman victory for the Romans and a slap in the face for the Jewish revolt. However, in the meantime, the People's Front of Judea are about to fall out with the People's Judeans Front, and they'll start fighting each other, so the Romans will win anyway. And that's the final end of turn 2, and the Romans have breached the wall, or at least they're trying. The Romans on top of the wall there, they've landed their drawbridge, and they're now fighting for possession of the battlements. However, in the gatehouse, the door knocker has just gone straight through the door, actually, and the Romans have burst through the door, or the gatehouse, and the Romans are fighting in the courtyard. The Jewish defenders are not really holding their own. They've taken quite a few casualties, but they have supports, so we have to see how that one turns out. It looks like the Romans are going to secure this end of the town anyway. Now for the far side. We have dealt artillery blows to each other, but not really done too much damage. The Romans have successfully chased off the troops who sallied forth out of the fort. And at the end of turn 3, we've not really achieved much. Again, it's a bit boring on this side. This side of the battlefield is completely rubbish. The Romans have moved up to the wall and started throwing javelins and peeler and stuff and plumbata, and the bowmen on top of the wall are throwing pointy arrow things back at them. Nothing much happening there. Over here, again, neither of us have had enough points to really do much, so we've basically been throwing sticks at each other and shouting loudly, trying to scare each other into submission, which isn't working. However, on this side it's completely different. The Marines have broken through the upper regions of the gatehouse. The Marines are currently supporting the Romans down below and fighting their way along the parapet against the Judean javelin men? Yeah, javelin skirmish?
Yes.
Yeah. The Marines have basically captured the gatehouse. Down below, the battle still goes on. Still not much going on. There's been a bit of pushing back and pushing forward, and then pushing back again. Overall, neither side doing too well. I'd say the Romans are coming off slightly better than the Jews in this area. And on this side, the Romans have definitely captured the battlements and are now throwing peeler down onto the defenders below, who are very heavily shaken and disordered. So I think a charge next turn might be good. I'm not sure how you charge off a wall. Maybe I'll just jump. So, sorry, not much to tell on this turn. It's been a lot of pushing up and down, as you can expect in any siege warfare game. So there we go. Let's see if something interesting happens next turn. with the end of turn 4, we have a slight problem on this side. The Romans have been pushed back by some auxiliary troops who've come out to fight, which hasn't done them much good. The crossfire from the bows up on the top didn't do too much good. However, the Sicarii have been pushed back to the walls, and over here it's far worse. Yes, the walls have been taken by the Romans. The light infantry on the top of the walls have gone over to this side of the table. As you can see, the Romans have pushed the Jewish forces back. The Zealots have taken position inside the temple, and they're completely pushed back and disordered. It's just house-to-house fighting now. Just in the centre, the Romans are pushing the Jews back even more. The Jews have taken a lot of casualties, and the Roman Marines have pushed through the gates and are now fighting in one of the houses. The Jews again have attempted to take cover in a house, try and divide the amount of points they get hit by, but they're still getting pounded. That only leaves 2 intact Jewish units at the rear of the far wall, so it looks like the game is basically over. The Romans are going to win. Overall, quite an interesting little siege game. It happened a lot quicker than we expected. Once the Romans got into the walls, it was a lot more effective than we thought. It was what?
Paper mache.
Paper mache, yeah. So once they got over the walls, it was pretty much a done deal. Maybe next time the Jews should put more effort into slowing the Romans down. So overall, I'd say good, interesting game. It's the second outing for the Jews and Romans as a battle report, and we thought we'd do a siege just to see how fun it was, considering we had these shiny walls to play with. And yeah, it's turned out quite well. Romans tend to be better assaulting positions than the Jews are defending them. The Jews don't really have particularly good defending infantry. They're mainly a fast attack army, lots of medium to light infantry to attack with, not much use defending a fortress with. Apart from these guys here, who are very good at defending. After all, they are using Roman equipment. And the Romans, of course, are built to take forts. So that's the end of the battle report. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been an interesting one. This has been me. Have fun.